Well, hello everyone. I hope you're having a great day today. It's Tuesday. Welcome to another edition of Take 5. Hey, this week on Take 5, we're talking about a subject that's pretty hard. We're dealing with the subject of patience. Now, it's probably going to take us a couple of weeks to deal with it and deal with it correctly. But where we are beginning with this subject of patience is probably the most difficult. We've taken our text and this title for this week. We've taken it from Hebrews 6:12 that says that we should not be lazy, but that we should imitate those who through faith and patience inherit the promises of God. That's how you acquire them, by not being lazy. Back up one verse in Hebrews 6 and he says that we're to do it with diligence and not be lazy. And then through faith and patience, we inherit the promises of God. It takes all of that. We talked about going through, we talked about the faith part, and now we're talking about the patience part. And that's the part that we're going to struggle with the most, because patience is not just waiting, patience is not just enduring, patience is not just bearing up under the load. Patience is how we wait, how we endure, and how we bear up under the load. It has everything to do with our character, our attitude, and our integrity as we go through the tests and the trials of life. To define patience, you will find three different definitions. Number one, cheerful, hopeful, endurance, and continuous. Now, the definition itself is hard to swallow because it says cheerful, hopeful, endurance, and I'm usually not cheerful or hopeful if I'm having to endure something. Definition two, to be long-spirited yet have a godly nature. That means to have to endure with something a long time, to bear up under it a long time, but you have a godly nature. And then the third one is to bear up under the load until the task is finished. Now, I know that sometimes we make a good effort and we'll start out in a test, we'll start out in a trial, and we'll do pretty good. But the thing is not just starting out with a good attitude, it's finishing with a good attitude. It's enduring to the end with patience, with godliness and Christ-likeness. That's what we're trying to do. It does absolutely no good if your test lasts a month, and this is just hypothetical, if your test lasts a month, it does absolutely no good to start out and go into this thing and for 3 days you've got a godly attitude, but for the rest of the month, man, you're just like, just throwing a fit and a tantrum and all kinds of things, and you're nasty and you're hard to live with, and your family can't stand you, and the people you work with can't stand you, and your wife can't stand you, and your husband can't stand you, and all of these things simply because we did not respond to this with patience, with a godly attitude. Patience is the one attribute of believer that is just as important as faith. How you endure while you're waiting on God is just as important as believing you're going to receive the promise. It's not just that I believe it. And some people put so much focus on faith. It cannot just be that. It's how I respond and how I act and how I live and how I let my light shine while I'm waiting on God and believing God for the promise. Now, yesterday we stated that if I'm talking about patience, then I have to accept that there's some things in my life I can't control, and that's a fact. But there is one thing we can control, and that's us. That's how we act. It's how we respond. It's how we display our character and our integrity while we're waiting on God. So patience has to fit in there somewhere. And this is why I told you it's going to be hard, especially to begin with, as we're talking about this, because it deals with our character. It deals with our attitude. It deals with our fears, our frustrations. It deals with our anger, because we can have none of those things and endure well. We can't do it. Yesterday we read a passage from as Paul talked about the church, and he bragged on the church about their patient sufferings. I want to read one from James as well today. He says, "My name is James. I'm a bondservant of God, of the Lord Jesus Christ, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, writing greetings." And he's writing this letter to the 12 tribes that are scattered abroad. And that doesn't make sense. Sometimes we just read the beginning of these epistles and we keep going and we don't think anything about it. But there's a mountain of information that he has given us right there once you study the history. James wrote this epistle to the 12 tribes that had been scattered abroad and dispersed after Titus, the Roman general, came in and sacked and destroyed Jerusalem in 70 AD. These Jews were scattered all over the Greco-Roman world and throughout the Middle East and into parts of Asia. According to one historian, approximately 1.1 million of them were killed in the destruction of Jerusalem, and those that survived faced persecution, starvation, and slavery. And Paul writes to them saying, "My brothers," verse number 2, "count it all joy when you fall into divers temptations." Verse 1, he tells us who he's writing to, these guys that are in serious trouble. And then he says, "My brothers, count it all joy when you fall into divers temptations," or various trials. Now, friend, if these Jews can count it joy with what they're dealing with, surely the church in the 21st century, surely we can learn to count our troubles joy as well. Now he goes on, he tells them that the trouble that they're facing, it's going to do something in their life. Verse 3. He says, "The testing now of your faith produces patience. But let patience have its perfect work so that you may be complete and lacking nothing." So when he says lacking nothing, don't get the idea he's talking about material possessions. He's not talking about that. These guys don't have material possessions. They are out. They're scavenging the land trying to survive, facing starvation, persecution, and slavery. So he's not talking about a new car. He's not talking about a pocket full of money. What is he talking about when he says you'll lack nothing? Well, when you do a little search on it, you'll find out that he's telling them you will not lack anything in the area of character, integrity, and attitude. Patience will produce a God-likeness, a Christ-likeness in you that you have never imagined in your life. Basically, he's saying when your faith is tried and you respond with patience, and as you continually put your patience into practice, it will develop the other traits in your life that will help you grow into spiritual maturity. So yes, we need the test. Yes, we need the trial. Yes, we need the tribulation because it requires us to respond with faith. Faith requires us to respond with patience. And as we put patience into practice, it helps us to develop Christ-like traits that we need on a daily basis. I'm telling you, he was speaking to people that were hurting. They watched 1 million of their brothers killed, and yet he says, it's good for you. Your patience is going to produce something in you that will make you strong. Well, hey, we're going to talk some more about this tomorrow. I look forward to being right here with you on Wednesday's edition of Take 5. Until then, God bless you. Have a great day, friend, as great as you can. Trust the Lord. He's not going to fail you. Be patient. Be godly. In the end, it will be worth it all.